I am Todd Humphreys. I am the cybersecurity go-to-market leader here at WEI. Been here for about 3 years, been in the industry for about 30. Yeah, I'm probably one of the oldest people on this call. And we're also joined by Jodi from Broadcom, who's going to take up after I do the introduction to tell you a little bit more about what's going on at Broadcom. And we have a guest of honor today, Vinny Iyer. If you guys are football fans, fantasy football fans, you might know him. He's been with Sporting News for I think 27 years, and he's is quite a personality on the Locked In podcast where he does a fantasy football show as well. So this is timely because preseason started. You're gonna have to start building out your teams this year. I won my pool, my fantasy football league last year, so I'm back again for another year. The last thing I'll point out, because I know this was a topic of conversation around this discussion today, the number one question we're getting is after Mythos and the understanding of what frontier AI solutions can do, both to improve security, but also to find vulnerabilities and build exploits. We've got kind of a top five. There's actually a top six, and I'll get to that in a minute. Of what people should focus on. It's a number one, secure code. You release bad applications, people are going to find vulnerabilities, and you're going to get popped. Virtual patching. Use what you have today to, protect the new vulnerabilities that are being discovered, and that buys you time to allow you to patch. Do a better job of vulnerability and exposure management. Focus on what matters the most, and then determine how well your existing tool set protects you. Use identity, RBAC, for AI agents. Big issue after the looking at the Hugging Face situation, and can use better intelligence. There's really, really good, fast emerging intelligence out there now that I highly recommend that customers start looking at this and adopting it. So these are some of the lessons from WEI and the frontier AI threat. But that being said, I mean, our partner Broadcom is thinking a lot about this as well. I think you're going to hear about some of that. But again, thank you guys for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Jodi at this point and sign off until Vinny gets on.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining this session today. We're really excited to, co-present alongside WEI. And really excited to see that you guys actually, are leading with, those 5 and 6 stages when it comes to private AI and the threat vulnerabilities that we're facing today. My name is Jodi. I've been with Broadcom a little over 14 and a half years now, original from VMware, and been around in IT for a long time too. So thank you so much for having me today. So we know today that private AI really is providing us a new way to look at our infrastructure and how we're managing and functioning within our companies and our corporate infrastructures. And we need to ensure that we have a secure, private, and controlled governance over the current infrastructure, no matter where you no matter where you are today. So we know that 2026 is fundamentally changing from 2026, excuse me, to I'm just going to go off video really quickly. Let me just reset here. As we look at the 2026 to 2031 horizon, we know that AI is fundamentally reshaping that enterprise infrastructure today. And we know with that massive leap in capability comes kind of that critical shift in the threat landscape. So attackers are now using frontier AI models to discover software vulnerabilities and launch weaponized exploits really at machine speed. So traditional perimeter defenses are slow, and we know that manual patching cycles are simply just cannot keep up with that pace. So that's where we believe that VMware vDefend is really launching that private cloud security and really changes the game. So rather than relying on reactive and agent-heavy tools, we're leveraging vDefend alongside VMware Cloud Foundation to embed that multi-layered zero trust defense, and also including microsegmentation, hypervisor native IDPS, and then also it's providing that AI-driven network detection and response directly. We know that from a VMware Cloud Foundation perspective that we want to ensure that we're delivering more value on that constrained IT spend, but also simplification and efficiency to reduce that operational burden. So I wanted to ensure that we kind of opened up and talked about the key ecosystem terminology that we're up against today. So frontier AI is really that represents that really highly capable foundational models that are pushing those state-of-the-art reasoning, coding, and cybersecurity really into these models and fundamentally accelerating these security timelines, really. Anthropic is the AI safety research company behind the Claude family of models. And so, as well as also the creator of Project Glasswing and then the Claude Mythos preview. Mythos itself is really is Anthropic's frontier model designed to find and exploit those software vulnerabilities at or beyond the expert human capability. So really driving that urgent need for faster patching velocity. Alongside that, we have Project Glasswing, which is the defensive cybersecurity initiative that's granting select partners early access to that Mythos model to really secure the critical software. So proving that we have that AI-driven vulnerability discovery is now really an operational reality. So what's Broadcom doing? We're integrating these frontier AI models into our security engineering work. We're exploiting or finding exploitations and understanding the vulnerability discoveries while using these models. We've also done tons of regression testing and built those security patches and vulnerability patches into VCF 9.1, which is why we really are trying to help our customers get to the latest and greatest platform from VCF 9.0 or 9.1. Getting to the most recent version is really going to help you get those patching vulnerabilities that we're finding within code and within other with other sections and other integrations with third-party customers and partners. So what we see here really with these frontier AI models really is that fundamental shift for these IT operations. So the big change that we've really seen over like the last month even has been the emergence of this frontier AI security model, Anthropic and then Mythos, but there's others on the horizon, including OpenAI's announcement of Daybreak as well. So we know that every one of our execs are wanting to talk about it because it really represents this generational shift in how we're managing security today. So what's happening, what we see here on the screen here is these new models are really like having a super hacker on staff, and everyone will be able to have them on staff shortly because after using these models and using them and discovering these vulnerabilities, our perspective really did change on how we think about the actual patching. So the old world, we'd evaluate the severity of the vulnerability first, and then we decide if it's going to go in this weekend's change window or next quarter or possibly even never. Now with the AI, it kind of strings together those multiple low vulnerability exploits, making it a high vulnerability. So anything with open source code is particularly vulnerable. When you give AI that code plus the knowledge of environment, it can quickly find all of those holes. So what you see here on the 0-day clock, down here on the right, it really tracks the trends here, and you can see that the bottom, the majority of the 0-day vulnerabilities turn into exploits within a day. So they're saying that by early 2027, the time from vulnerability to exploit will be down to 1 hour, and by the 2027, possibly down by 1 minute. And frankly, we think that it's going to be with the recent attacks. I think that it's going to be much sooner. I mean, I think before the end of 2026, we're going to see these, be 1 minute vulnerabilities. So you should expect that every single software vendor that you have will be drastically increasing that patch frequency to trying to plan for that. So where we're leading with this is really with the experience that we've learned from these and from the Project Glasswing and being a partner with Anthropic. We've really put, like we said, that engineering into our actual product in 9.1. We're talking about platform security. So we want these customers to shift quickly to get to 9.1. Really, it's not about taking in all the components and kind of upgrading every one of them. You can do it just by like some of the components, really just to build that frontier AI model and get that fundamental security for those architectural changes that we're, obviously not going to disclose those changes, but we have this platform that we have now with VCF 9.1. We're really moving towards that live patching. So it rounds out the customers and getting them to patch very quickly. We have live patching for the TPM host, and TPM is Trusted Platform Module. We have vCenter Quick Patch. We have EDR integration. We also have file integrity monitoring really to harden against these upcoming threats. But you should also expect this patch frequency to increase with 9.1, so we stay on top of things as well. And then really, frankly, the bigger challenge we think isn't the actual VMware platform. It's the thousands of apps that kind of run on top of that platform, and that takes time. So if you have vDefend and you have access to things like virtual patching, you can buy time to help remediate. So the time really is not in, okay, we have the patch. It's usually in, when is that patch going to go in? Is it going to go in now? Is it going to go in 2 weeks? You have to test the patch. So there's a lot of time that goes around determining when that patch can be applied. So we're looking at, when we're talking about vDefend, we give you a 3-step or a 4-step process that really talks about how to embed and start from, where do I start? How do I find the vulnerabilities? What do I do? That's usually the first process that the customers are trying to understand when they're trying to protect the workloads and the applications. So moving forward to the frontier AI model, when we're talking about custom application mitigation, some things that we're doing when we're talking about addressing this threat horizon is really around Spring Enterprise. So Spring really powers the majority of enterprise Java applications today. And with Spring Enterprise, we really give you that frontier AI hardened backend version patching for those Java apps. You get commercial first access to the CVE only fixes, also allowing you to patch those vulnerabilities that are without breaking production environments or forcing kind of those risky framework upgrades. And then we have an application assessment. So we have deep code repository reviews to identify these risks and these transit dependencies. And also we have architectural, trying to help you remove those architectural bottlenecks from the attacker before they get exploited. So really bringing this all together when we have defense in depth with VMware Cloud Foundation, we have cyber resilient recovery that we're offering. This is the full gamut here. So protecting with VMware vDefend, providing that strong lateral security. So placing those policies at the VM level instead of at that the deeper level. You can't put an agent on every single one of those VMs. So we want to make sure that we're providing that hardening and lateral security at the hypervisor level, and that's kind of where we win. We win in that private cloud space where we're providing that those infrastructure policies at the hypervisor level because we own the hypervisor, so we can control what's coming in and out of a hypervisor. So that's really giving you that hardened infrastructure and helping you get the visibility into the workload and the flow of what those workloads are doing and being able to find those exploits even faster. So to help summarize today, we really want to make sure that we're understanding and helping our customers understand that the infrastructure modernization really is the ultimate cyber defense. So upgrading to VCF 9.1 is no longer an IT project. It's really the definitive security foundation that we're providing and required to kind of survive these machine speed threats and the new landscape that we're facing today. The machine speed threats really are coming at us with the AI-driven attack campaigns, like we talked about, putting together smaller vulnerabilities into larger, more higher vulnerabilities. And then we also have to deal with those legacy constraints as well. So we have to look at how we have disruptive host evacuations and the maintenance and the downtime that it takes with those disconnected point security tools too, that really are creating those blind spots, and then understanding how those machine speed threats really are taking advantage of those zero-day exploits and executing at machine velocity. So with the VCF 9.1, we really want to help integrate security natively across this entire cloud stack, and we really want to transform the defenses into this dynamic zero trust shield today. So if you have any customers that are moving up to 9.1, or if you as a customer are moving to 9.1, really we really want to help you understand that we've hardened the infrastructure and we're taking advantage of these frontier models and the security that's provided in these new frontier models for our customers to ensure that you have a stronger security landscape in your VMware infrastructure.
Well, Vinny, I think you were going to chat with us a little bit about the world of fantasy football in the upcoming season. Not too sure if there's anything you need from us at this point, or do you have some kind words you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think first of all, with what we're doing here with our drafts is it's not exactly one formula fits all. When we're trying to build a winning fantasy team, it's incorporating a lot of things, using what we have at our disposal in terms of the stats and information. Then it's just knowing situations and being able to break that down. And then the last thing is you do have to trust your gut a little bit. There's some things that you do not know that will happen. Really, everything is an unknown in fantasy football. So you try to limit the variables that are going to affect your team in a negative way and try to put together the portfolio with the group of players you're drafting and what you're doing throughout the season that's going to be most beneficial to you and mitigate risk and raise reward. I think that's in general what you're trying to do in all businesses. And if you approach fantasy football that way, I think you're going to have a lot of success playing and winning, which is the most important thing.
Very good. Yeah, I joined my first fantasy football league last year, and I put up a big fuss, I have to say, and I ended up winning in a very competitive family. So I'm hooked now. Um, anything we should be looking for this year?
Well, I have a few things to share,
Yes,
numbers that
please.
you may not be thinking about, and I like to present this because there's some things that the casual fantasy player or the one that wants to become more serious is not quite aware of. So, all right, so this is what I'm opening up first, and this tells you the vacated targets by team, and this is specifically to the entire roster. So, the Eagles, if you are an Eagles fan, you might have realized that they traded AJ Brown, and that's a lot of stuff going out the other direction, right? New England is acquiring those targets from last year. Now you have AJ Brown gone. They did draft a rookie there, Makai Lemon. So that says who's going to be the beneficiary of that? Because when you have the vacated targets, it's vacated opportunity and hidden opportunity. So what you have here is Devonta Smith. He's been kind of there. He's been known as the skinny Batman to the swole Batman. Well, now he's the only Batman in town. So Batman is going to thrive when he doesn't have to be the Robin, and that's what's happening here. So Devonta Smith, we're going to bump up. I think he's a bit undervalued, and you're finally seeing the market adjust to that. He's been around the 17th wide receiver in fantasy football, but now you see him going up and up. Same thing with the Bears, 149 vacated targets. They also made a trade, moved DJ Moore to the Bills. So a lot of opportunity there. And the player expected to benefit most from that is Luther Burden III. He's a second year receiver. We also look at the position he plays, the slot for Chicago, and that's the spot in Detroit where Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, had Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you say, okay, who's going to benefit from that? We're looking at Luther Burden. The next one you look at is the 49ers. This is a bit of an injury mess. I don't know if you believe in the conspiracy theories that they live near a power plant or whatever, and a lot of people are getting hurt. So it's hard to trust them all the time to say they already lost a receiver this year in Ricky Pearsall. They did add Debo Samuel, but the guy that they added that's going to really help make up for a lot of that is Mike Evans. So you say, okay, Mike Evans changing team. He's been very consistent with the Buccaneers. He needed a change of scene. This is a great spot. And the Commanders have to adjust this a little bit. They did add Stephon Diggs, but Terry McLaurin is still going to have a big year. Because Diggs is a little bit older. You still have Terry McLaurin as the number one receiver. Now, the flip side of this, the Saints only have 14 vacated targets. Now, that's not great, right? You have to say they have to diversify a little bit more, but when you have a rookie coming into the mix, now you got to squeeze the other guy. Like he's not going to get the number of targets. Chris Olave was one of the most targeted receivers last year. So Jordan Tyson right now, the rookie's hurt, but at some point he's going to be there. So I'm going to bump down Chris Olave. I'm not going to buy that he has the same big season. And then finally, you have a team like the Broncos that have zero vacated targets. That means they added somebody, Jalen Waddle, without subtracting any. So you say, okay, what's going this going to do for their current roster? You're going to say Cortland Sutton is gone. So you don't want to put him on your draft list. I mean, it's a guy that had to depend on a lot of volume. He's going to lose a lot of that volume because Waddle in Miami was rather targeted there. So
Mhm.
when you look at that, that's kind of a useful tool that you should look at. And you can apply this to a lot. You can apply it specifically to tight ends. You can apply it to backfield touches lost, which some people look at as well. Where do you have the opportunity? So really, talent is the number one thing we're looking for. And these players that I've all mentioned on the upside are talented players. But the second thing we look for is opportunity in fantasy. If we have talent plus opportunity, that's where you get the results you're looking for. The other thing I've done is build this kind of chart for, I know a lot of you like probably numbers and seeing it played out and what you're actually looking for. And this is helpful for me. I've done this for a while where I adjust based on the market. So really, these are your goals that you're trying for with each position. These are the traditional starting positions in most leagues. You might have some less, you might not have a kicker, so you just subtract that from the equation. You might have a PPR league, so you would add a little bit more to the scoring. If you're in a standard league, you would subtract a little bit. So in the middle there, you have 110.5. Why have I picked 110.5? Well, that's the usual scoring plateau that you have to hit here to win your matchup. Now, will you lose some matchups if you score 110.5 or 125, even 130? Absolutely. You're going to lose some matchups. But if you're scoring consistently in that 110.5 range in half point PPR leagues, you're going to win probably 75 to 80% of the time. And when we're in a head-to-head situation, that's what you want. I think in business, we also winning 75% of the time, we'll take it, right? If we can hit that number that we look at and say, this is where we want to have our production. So this is where we can make our profit in fantasy football. So you look at this, and I've given an example of what kind of game would get you there, right? I always talk about 250 and 2. Can I get 250 and 2 from my quarterback this week? I am thrilled if that happens because I have 250 and 1.5. I know you can't throw for 1.5 touchdowns, so get 250 and 2, and I'll be just thrilled with my quarterback performance that week, assuming I can hit some of these other numbers. Now, ideally, you'll have, say, an RB1. He has like a four touchdown game. He explodes. So, what does that do? If he scores 35 points, you need 20 less points from your other positions to get where you need to get to be in position to win your fantasy matchup this week or in this particular week. And then you look at the entire season, the profile, the type of player. So if you're looking to draft a player, could he hit this profile of what we're looking for? So a quarterback, 250, two touchdowns, you're in business, you're above the points you're looking for. How does that translate? 323 points over the course of 17 games. And when you look at that, that's approximately 38.25 passing yards, 26 passing TDs. Of course, it's adjusted again. If that quarterback is a runner, you're going to take it, and running quarterbacks have an edge there because, again, you're getting 1 point for 25 passing yards. We're getting 1 point for 10 rushing yards. So keep that conversion in mind. But this is how it goes down the line, what you're really looking for at each position here. So that's what I kind of came up with, and it changes, right? Some years are higher scoring than others. I'm using last year as an example. 110 pretty much would help you win in half point PPR. 120 would probably help you win in full PPR, and 100 will probably help you in standard. So you kind of deviate by about 10 there, what we're looking for. All right, so next we're going to go to the fun part, and then we'll get into the questions here. But this can be your fodder for the questions. And this is maybe you want to screenshot some of this, maybe put it away for your drafts later. But this is an example of a mock draft. How we get in, and this is good to participate in a lot of mock drafts. I've kind of done a consensus mock draft, way things have been going, the way things I've been seeing. And I've made some key decisions here to help you. And again, we're making key decisions all the time in business, X versus Y. What is better for that? And the same critical thinking applies here, right? So Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, there's been a lot of debate. Both these guys got $25 million a season. That would be a good return for anybody. But we're deciding who's going to be the better return for us. Robinson was the guy that I think is getting the hype, but now you look at Jameer Gibbs. He's in position to get Robinson's volume. Now, if you look on the slide, you can see that at the same volume, Gibbs is a much better player than Robinson if he can get the same value. So he has a much higher upside. You'll hear those words upside, ceiling versus floor. These two guys have tremendously high floors. But when you're making a decision as critical as this, you're looking for who has the floor and the ceiling when you're making that very first pick, and that's where you look at. And you go down the line here, when we look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, this is a battle of consistency versus inconsistency. St. Brown is pretty much the same receiver. I have him there at 6 on the board. Do I want to take St. Brown or Taylor? This is the consistency thing. So we went upside there, greater ceiling. Here we're going, who has the greater consistency? And when you go through this,
Mhm.
you want to have those things. You want to have a ceiling guy, you want to have a consistent guy. So I'm going to always pick St. Brown in that situation. And then go on and on. You have Lamb and Jefferson. Who's got a better offensive situation? Where's the support? You go there. Then you look at same thing, Bowers, McBride, Henry, Walker, Williams, Love. I think the other battle we have, I think with Bowers, McBride, same thing with Lamb and Jefferson. Who has a better situation? Bowers might actually step into it. So you look at that, and then Henry versus Walker is the classic. We have the up and coming back who's on a new team that just won Super Bowl MVP versus tried and true Derrick Henry. How do you kind of balance that out? Well, this is how you do it. You say that Derrick Henry is in a run heavy offense. He's a freak of nature. He's probably going to give you one more big year. So you go in that direction with him. And then Walker, look, don't buy into the hype. Really look at the numbers and where you're going. I'm not saying you drop Walker that far down. I have him one spot below, but that's what you consider. And finally, the rookie hype, right? Be careful. Like Jeremiah Love, right now, if you're a Notre Dame person out there, you're probably wanting, I want to get Jeremiah Love on my team. I love this guy. He's the number 3 overall pick. Okay, that's great. But what is the reality of the situation? He has an ankle sprain right now, high ankle sprain going into the season. He's not technically the starter for the Cardinals. So just be wary there. He still has a lot of upside, but Javonte Williams, coming off a big year from the Cowboys, nothing has changed. He actually got paid, so that would tell you you go there. So those are kind of the basics I like to look at in the decision-making process. So what I gave you was things you looking for from last year that can carry over to help you, things you're looking for this year, and then how you put it all together for the critical decision making. When it's time to be on the clock, the best thing is be prepared. Know exactly where you're going. Don't be the person that's like, I don't know who to take here. I'm not quite sure. Just like in any other endeavor we're doing with business, if you fail to prepare, you're going to prepare to fail. So just it's one of my favorite sports quotes from John Wooden. So that's something that I look at there. So there you have my, that's it for my presentation, by the way. So
I guess, I'm gonna. A friend of mine asked me a question knowing you're gonna do this show, and he's a technology guy, as a lot of people on this call are. What is the And then we'll get into some real questions. What is like the back end process to put all these numbers together? Who is the single source of truth, and where does it all come from? Because that's what kind of blew me away is how much up to the minute tracking needs to be done to keep the data fresh on these players.
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing you have to use what the past has told you, and not
Yep.
just on the particular players and what they've done in recent history,
Hmm.
but also what types of players have done. Like, what have rookies done in this particular situation? If I don't know, they've not played in the league, I got to have something to go on. And like I said,
Right.
talent is the number one thing, and talent is variable, right? We know that this player could be really talented, but he doesn't put in the work to get to where it needs to be. And that's the thing we can't always account for, right? It can be
Right.
fickle. Same thing with injuries. We do not know those things. Those are variables. So I talked about it before, but just mitigating things that are going to throw off. So what I like with some situations is the guy produced, he's in the same offense, everything's there. The problem is you have almost like 20 new offensive coordinators this year. So
Right.
we
Right.
got to factor in their tendencies as well. So you kind of put it all in a blender. You say, what is this person going to do? What is the tendency of this coach that they have? Are they going to pass more? Are they going to run more? Is the
Hmm.
opportunity going to change? What positions do they like to involve most? What personnel do they have on the field? So we have to put
Right.
all this together, consider all the variables before we make the final decision. And even though we do all that, we still can be wrong because there's that big percentage of luck that comes into play
Right.
and a big percentage of things can happen like injuries or guys just not showing up or getting traded that we do not have control over.
Right. Got it. It's an amazing big data exercise. I don't want to. If there's other people who have questions, I don't want to be the guy who monopolizes. I don't know if you can, Vinny. Can you see the chat, or do you want me to read the questions to you?
I can see the chat, but it's starting to
Okay.
get busy. So if you want to just pick
Yeah.
out some of your
Yeah.
favorites, yeah,
Yeah. Javier, thanks for the question. There's a question. Do you prefer a league with an entry fee or just for fun?
that's a good question. I do like the entry fee, especially if I win and I can bring back the money. And um, but I also have a league for fun with my college friends where we play for a trophy, and I sometimes I get frustrated most if I could win two or three or leagues elsewhere, right? And it would still
Hmm.
bother me that I do not have that free trophy that's beat up and it's not in my possession because it travels from house to house, kind of like the Stanley Cup every year. If I don't have that trophy, I'm just as disappointed as, but that's the way I am. I'm competitive with every league. It doesn't matter if I have an entry fee, but if you're new, I would say get into a league. Hey, I don't know if I love this fantasy game, but I'm intrigued. Everyone's told me about it. Go play one for free. So that's how it goes.
And what's your you want that trophy? What's your track record? Are you doing pretty well, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I can't probably put together how much I've won. Like, I honestly, I lose track. I think some of it just sits and and I just re-up the fee and oh, I have this one. Oh, that's good. Yeah, usually it's like sitting in one of Venmo or PayPal. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where. But I didn't do it. I didn't. Sometimes this is really bad, but sometimes I forget. Oh, I did really well in that league. I don't remember drafting. Okay, I did well, I guess. So that's a good thing to have. Like, and I try to manage my leagues. As an expert, I don't want to play like 20 leagues. I'm going to
Right,
start losing in all of them. I like to have 6 to 8, and that's more reasonable.
right. No, makes sense. So I guess a related question here: have you played in? This is from Anthony. Thanks, Anthony. Have you played in a guillotine league, and if so, how does that change your draft approach at all? And you might want to explain what a guillotine league is before we you answer the question.
Yeah, it's a quite morbid term, but I will you basically get your head chopped off if you're a low scoring team in that league, and then it's kind of a mix of a survivor pool where you're doing the who can stay around the longest until the end. Same thing. Like you're just
Okay,
surviving every week. So in the survival, you're going to talk about ceiling versus floor. You got to look at some other teams in your league. What are their potential ceilings? How am I just going to get to the floor where I do not get cut? So it's different, right? You're looking for more consistency. You don't want volatility there because you don't want to be the one getting cut in the end. So that's how I look at it, and it's different, but it's a definitely fun way to play. That's a little bit more dangerous, so I like it.
got it, got it. Okay, so it vaguely reminds me of the old story: if you're chased by a bear, you don't have to outrun the bear; you just got to outrun your
Yeah,
buddy. So
yeah,
it's sort of like that.
exactly. Yeah, it's
Okay,
exactly like that. So,
cool. And Javier again is curious if you prefer any particular app, ESPN, NFL, Yahoo. Is there an
yeah, I
app you like
guess
to use?
now technically this is something everyone should know. ESPN and NFL are merging their apps because of the acquisition. So I think you have basically two choices. I don't know if anyone plays on any other formats. I do like one called Sleeper. That's one that I played a few leagues on. It's very easy to navigate, easy interface for your apps and everything, but
Yeah.
Yahoo was first in the game, and in terms of like the mock drafting, and I'm just used to visually Yahoo, even though they've made some tweaks over the years. Like Yahoo's just in my kind of my default. Like it's kind of just what I'm used to, but whatever you're used to is fine. But if I had to try a different one, I would try Sleeper. That's a good one I really like, and I was able to
Okay.
handle that. I like to see everything without a lot of noise, and I think Sleeper and Yahoo have the best mobile apps as well. So.
Got it. And do all the apps rely on the NFL's core base of statistics and data? I mean, it's all coming from one place, I would assume. So there's no deviation.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I think Yahoo has the best like real time, and if
Yeah.
you don't use the stat tracker on game day and just put it out there, like I know for my job, I have it open all the time because I want to see what's going on with the scores. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Sunday you just may want to have it open on the screen, see how you're doing. Even if you're doing something with the family, you just want a sneak peek, you can do that with Yahoo pretty easily.
You're going to get us all in trouble. Fair. Fair enough. Um, so I'm going to ask one more question, but I don't see any other questions come in the feed right now. But you're talking to a company that's largely based in the Boston area, New England. What are you thinking about the Pats prospects this year? I mean, some big moves in the offseason. Um, got any
Yeah,
thoughts?
Yeah, that's fair, and I'll also give you their fantasy outlook because we can do that as well. But when we look at the Patriots, like everyone carped about everyone outside of New England, I won't say anybody inside New England, but carped about their schedule. It's easy. Well,
Yep.
you take advantage of that, and now it's the challenge. Can you follow through on that and have the tougher schedule and make it work? But overall, this is a very good team. I know everyone's thinking about the Super Bowl and how things ended, but really the journey
Right.
was something to watch. And I think you would say, if you're a Patriots fan, you kind of had house money last year. You jumped the gun and got a lot farther than anyone would have expected, right? So now
Absolutely.
Drake May, you want him to continue to progress and grow in as a quarterback and learn from those mistakes. And the big thing you have is now AJ Brown, getting him a number one receiver. We never saw that last year. Everyone's like, Drake May doesn't have a number one receiver. Well, they got the number one receiver. They got a number two
Right.
receiver, Romeo Dubs. So they've got two guys there that should make a lot of plays. So I'm
Yep.
hoping, however, there's certain, I'm not going to talk about it too much in depth, but certain
Hmm.
off-field controversy doesn't come back and the Super Bowl hangover and all that. The Super Bowl
Right.
hangover, I think, is real, especially when you lose a game that way. I think the Bills are still going to be a tough team to get over in that division, but I
Yep.
still think the Patriots should be in the mix here. It's just going to be a lot tougher than it was last year to get where they were.
Gotcha. How's Will Campbell looking for the year? I see him around my town every once in a while. Is he gonna be healthy and
Yeah, I
more
mean, he
mature?
was very good for part of the season last year. Then he kind of
Yeah.
dropped off, and then the Seahawks were just a tough assignment for basically everybody involved. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what
Yeah.
kind of offensive line you had, they were coming at you at all angles. So, yeah, I think he should develop, get better. So, again, this team so young to get so far ahead might be a
Yep.
little bit of regression to put it all together as they get more challenged, but you want them to be consistent. And like, I don't know if you'll
Yeah.
see a team as consistent as the Brady Patriots, but you just want to be
Right.
in the mix every year to kind of make the playoffs and go from there.
Absolutely. So Javier has one more question. Head to head or overall points was his question. And he's a Saints
I
fan, just for the record.
Okay, I will mention something about the Saints too. And again, if you guys feel free, I got a lot of information here on Sleeper's Bus. So any particular players you want to ask about, feel free. Like
Hmm.
I'll give you what I have on them in my head as best as I can. Now, head-to-head overall points, like head-to-head is more fun. Let's be honest. Like if you're in an office setting, if you're at the proverbial water cooler and it's Monday and you've crushed your person down the hall, you're going to say, "Hey, um, how about that game this week?" And it's like, "What game? The Patriots game? No, I beat you." So it's a lot of fun to do that, right? If you're head to
Yeah.
head, points are fun. I think you incorporate points as like a tiebreaker if you want to say, "Hey, you can mix them up now in certain apps." So like the teams record-wise get in, but then the highest scoring team should always get in, right? As a rule. So you can combine those so you're not having issues there. Now with the Saints, I do like the Saints this year. I mean, Tyler Shuck is a really good young quarterback to target. He'd be one of my best sleepers. He's going really late in rounds. You also have now Travis Etienne. His value has gone up. So this is the thing we have to be prepared for, variables. Alvin Kamara is old, and now he's hurt again. So Travis
Right.
Etienne looks like a fortuitous pickup by them and a now draft pick. He's going to bump up a few spots. So you got to keep adjusting for that. Of all the hard work we do here, Todd, we got to prepare and then readjust and
Yeah.
spit out new information totally. So this is a good question by
Yeah.
Anthony. I see in the chat. Christian
Yep.
McCaffrey.
Ha.
This is a tough one. Like last year, I think a lot of people would have said, "Is he going to slow down?" And everyone said, he's had a lot of injuries. I think he's going to have a rough year. Now, the funny thing is, he didn't have the most efficient year last year. They were not a good running team. They had some injuries up front. Obviously, they had Brock Purdy missing several games. So they weren't the
Right.
same offense. But did it matter? Because they could throw the ball to him. And that's the thing. Is like he was such a prolific receiver that it didn't matter. He was averaging less than 4 yards per carry. Now, the question is, can he sustain that with the receptions and the production? So I think he has one more good year left. I can't guarantee he will stay healthy. He does have wear and tear. They're being very careful with him this preseason, but I think he has one season, maybe two left in him to produce what we're used to. But here's the thing. I wouldn't be so afraid of injuries when you're drafting Christian McCaffrey. Because if you had been last year, you missed out on the top two back, right? That
Yep.
produced in fantasy. So injuries we factor in as a variable, but I think to me, you can only think about them so much because they can totally reverse a trend, a player like McCaffrey, and he did last year.
Right. Got it.
All
All
right,
right, Caitlin.
this is one of my
Yeah.
favorite questions, Caitlin, that I basically get in all these chats. When do you draft a quarterback? Now, I will say I'm a little bit biased toward not taking a quarterback early because I'm always looking for guys for value late. Like last year, if you'd waited, took the eighth or ninth quarterback off the board, you'd have Drake May, who finishes the second quarterback.
Wow.
Now, you look at Matthew Stafford, people were speaking of injuries. He had a back injury last year. He's old. What is this guy going to do? Is he almost going to retire? What does he do? Throw for 46 touchdown passes. This should QB3. You could have had him for almost nothing last year. Now, do a lot of things need to fall into place for that to happen? Absolutely. Do a lot of things need to fall into place for Josh Allen? Sorry, Patriots fans. For Josh Allen to have a big season? No. You look at his finishes, he's been the top three QB like 5 or 6 years running. And he finishes the QB1 very often. So I think Josh Allen is the one guy you'd say, hey, I want Josh Allen. Then there's a little bit of a drop off. You get to maybe Drake May, Lamar Jackson, who you prefer there next. But Josh Allen is one of those guys. Just look at the track record, tried and true. He's going to give you an advantage of that position. Now you get later, you're trying your goal with every position, and going back to that model, producing above expectation. That's what you're looking for. Where are the guys who can produce up to expectations now? I'm not going to be personally going after Drake May this year. I had him last year because he was a good value. But I don't want to overpay for someone that is capped, right? If Drake May is the QB2 on the board, there's not much you can do here, right? If you think Josh Allen is always going to be, there's not much value to be had there if you draft. So you look for the next guy. Is it Jackson Dart? Because he's a running quarterback that you look at later. Brock Purdy. These two guys were in the top 10 in terms of average scoring last year, but they're buried. You have now in most leagues, Jackson Dart is the quarterback 11 or 12. Brock Purdy's like 13 to 15. And so if these guys can produce in the top 10, you kind of have to ask yourself a question, what quarterback is going to help do that here? So
Mhm.
I can pop if we want to see the screen again, I can do that for you. But
You
what,
okay with people screenshot it?
yeah, let me put it up
Okay,
there. Absolutely. Let me
cool.
just reshare now that I can do this effectively. Um, okay, let me
So
see. You got it?
yeah.
Okay, so I
Some
can
people
go
are
to,
wondering.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, someone also while this you're doing this asked a question about Josh Allen's longevity if he doesn't get his Super Bowl trophy. Um, has he got some years left in him? I mean, he's not
Yeah,
that old.
that's the other thing I love about Josh Allen. This guy's built like a freight train and
Yep.
he doesn't miss games. So you have him every single week except hopefully you're not playing fantasy in week 18 when a lot of people sit, but every single week this guy's going to produce. Like he just is a machine. It doesn't matter who, and now he's got a receiver in DJ Moore. So he's got a number one receiver. He's got a great running style. He's very hard to stop at the goal line. He is a machine. So he's got plenty of years left in his prime. Like he may end up not getting to that Super Bowl for a few more years, and I think that's what you all want there. But in terms of just his fantasy production, he actually might go down if he continues this. He might go down as the best fantasy quarterback ever because
Yeah.
he just so reliable year in year out. He's just unbelievable. I mean, just the numbers are just compiled. Even his bad games, even when he's
Yeah.
been terrible for half plus. Someone will be like, oh, he got two touchdowns in the fourth quarter. He ran for 40 yards. Oh, still better than a lot of people's really good games. So
Yeah.
I'll have that up there if you want to look at the mock draft. I'll also share this again if you want to keep this as a handy dandy tool here for you
Yeah.
going forward. So
That's great.
if anyone if you want that. So
Good
um,
deal.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're also getting close to end of time, but I know there's Caitlin also asked about auto drafting. I know it's
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
it's
we
the
have,
easy button.
I think we have Vinny until 1, so we have a little more time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I'm sorry. I
Yep.
didn't know that. Sorry, Vinny. Not trying to cut you short.
that's
Um,
fine. Yeah, bring some questions. That's a
yeah.
great one. Auto draft. I would not recommend it. I'm actually old school to the point where I like to see my drafters in person and stare them down and have a beer while it's happening. So I that's my ideal way of drafting. But I know technology, and again, if you guys are having an in-house league and everyone wants to get together at a bar, best way to do it. In manual in-person drafting, still there's something special about that. I have one of those. And then incorporating a little bit of just seeing people on Zoom or whatever. We do that as well
Hmm.
to keep it there. But I do not like letting the computer draft for me. Just do not let it happen. This is when you get a kicker in the seventh round because it's like the algorithm says, you know what, you don't have a kicker. You don't have a starting kicker. So let's give you that before we give you something else. So I just don't like letting something else do this. And look, as best as you can rank and create a queue. That's what I would do to make sure you have if whatever app you're using, create a queue where and do whatever it takes to make sure that your auto draft knows to take that player next, right? Make sure it's very secure where you can step away. And some people have done that where they'll look, I need to go out somewhere for a while. I think it's ideal to kind of set up that queue if you're picking at either end, right? If you're picking early where you have a long wait, if you're in the middle, things are coming fast and furious, you may want to change things on the fly. But if you know you're picking one and then you got to wait all the way to 24 with your next pick, make a queue maybe, make it easier, step away. Maybe you can get a little break. But I like to pay attention to what's going on in the draft all the time and auto draft only if you're really desperate, but at least get and if you're going to draft, always set up some kind of alert on your app. So it says you're drafting in 2 minutes. So you know, even if you're doing something else, that you can still do that.
Right. Um, Personal question based on your comments about Josh Allen. He was my fantasy quarterback last year, and Stafford was my backup. Should I have traded Stafford away? Because I mean, the bye week was fantastic because that was like the week, you know, Bills had a bye. Stafford threw for like 5 touchdowns. It was wonderful. But um, what would you have done with those two guys?
Yeah, the one thing I've learned is it's hard to sometimes trade a quarterback to another team, but there were teams that didn't get what they wanted out of quarterback, and I would have maybe
Right.
jumped on those teams earlier if there was an injury that you look at that you can jump on. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, okay, not unfortunately for us, Patrick Mahomes got hurt late, or you might have like tried to trade him to that manager early. But this is the
Hmm.
hard thing. I mean, this is why I think I like to shift a little bit to more two QB leagues and Superflex, where Superflex basically means you can play a quarterback in your flex position, which is essentially they should just call it two QB leagues because you're going to play a quarterback. It just gives you the option if you do not have two quarterbacks in that. But that's what I mean. How I look at it with two quarterbacks leagues, that's where like if you had a two quarterback league with both those guys, you would have dominated, right? And have
Right.
those be given where it is. And if it's the most important position on the field, and we're trying to get values for this position, we're waiting as long as possible. It would
Right.
seem like fantasy can adjust more to say, hey, if we're in a two quarterback league, these quarterbacks fly off the board because they're the most
Right.
valuable commodities, and they should be maybe. So that's where you see the shift of that, and I think that's something is you want to balance. You're probably thrilled you got Josh Allen. Maybe I look at it this way: who's going to draw in more for you elsewhere? It might have been Josh Allen, right? If you had traded him,
Oh, good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
like so that's a he might have got better return out of him, but again, it was probably hard to pull that trigger, knowing that it was Josh Allen and you were worried about Stafford maybe regressing. But sometimes you got to make those moves and hope for the best. A little leap of faith there with what you're doing.
My nephew offered me his entire list of starters for Josh Allen, so I kept him.
Yeah,
Good move.
yeah,
Good move.
yeah, yeah.
I think the questions are starting to come in here as well. Favorite NFL season you've covered aside from a season when the Giants won a Super Bowl. I guess I had to throw that in there. What was there a favorite season you covered?
Well, I was fortunate. I mean, I gotta do the count again of how many Super Bowls I've been to. A lot of them were Patriots wins, but I think that would have been inevitable if you got
Right.
enough Super Bowls. But I was the first one I went to that I covered was actually the 2008 Super Bowl with the Giants winning. So I think still that's my favorite. I think you can see if some of you can see, well, where I was before, I have a
Yeah.
background of that cover that I got framed because that was the first Super Bowl I covered. So that was what I got when I hit the 25-year mark. People kind of signed that. So it's still the most devastating thing I've ever seen. It's like a team coming out.
Yeah.
I also did enjoy the Patriots comeback from 28 to 3. So on both sides, the Patriots have given a lot of memories, and I was there for the Malcolm
Yeah.
Butler play as well. So the Patriots up and down have given you a lot of memories over the years. It seemed like every time the Patriots play Super Bowl, it's thrilling, except for last year, unfortunately. So
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. I saw Craig asked a question. Do you suggest taking a quarterback and wide receiver or tight end from the same team to get maximum FFBL points?
yeah, I
Does that make
think
sense?
yeah, the biggest thing is what is that team? Like, is it going to be Geno Smith and one of his rookie wide receivers? Absolutely not. You're not going to do that. We know that, right? Then you start to get some muddled ones. Or am I going to do that? But it is nice to have. I don't think I would force it. I'll say that. Like if it happens in the flow of things, like it's easy to do, say you jump on Jamar Chase early, right? That's one I really like because Chase and Burrow are so connected. Do I
Hmm.
need to have Justin Jefferson with Kyler Murray? No. Do I want to look at Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb? Probably, right? They're connected, they're attached to the hip in terms of what they do with their production. So you have to see it's more, does that quarterback trust that one player so much where they're both likely going to go off in the same game? That's what you have to look at here.
Gotcha.
And and you can do it. You can do it. I think it just depends on how your draft goes. I wouldn't try to force it, right? But it just, oh, is this a same thing with any other position or team? Is this person a good value? And if they're a value and it happens to work out, you marry those two things and you're in business
Hmm.
here.
Awesome. And Caitlin's really working on her draft here this year. If you'd like to prep ahead of time, a queue or just prior to your own draft, what sounds like what you're doing, Caitlin, what would be the optimal position breakdown of rounds 1 through 6?
Yeah, I
Makes
mean,
sense.
I actually look at that quite a bit as well. Like how to like
Hmm.
I will attack it. It might be a little bit different each year. I might look at also where I'm drafting, right? And if like I'm picking in the middle, I might go wide receiver first
Hmm.
because the top running backs are going to be gone. If I'm picking one, I'm taking running back, and I know I can script running back as my first pick. Now, another thing I look at as well is like if I have the number one pick and I got running back, look at the scoring thing I put up, right? If I've got a running, and this is another thing you can adjust, like you can say this, you can look at the projection of him. Now, if I'm taking, say I take Jahmyr Gibbs number one, what does that do? It gives me points over that 50. I'm going to get more than 15 points per game for my RB1. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. I might get like 23 points. So what would that say? I want to adjust. I don't need to invest right away in my RB2, right? I can say, look, I have something to play with. I've got a few points here at my running backs to do this. So you can say the next round, I'm going to take a wide receiver. So it might dictate the first pick, might dictate the second pick. But if you're like 8 to 12, you could end up with a running back or wide receiver. What I like is to make sure you're getting out of there with a high upside RB1 and a high upside wide receiver one in those first
Hmm.
rounds and
Yep.
make those variable. And then you can go if you want to go quarterback or tight end if it gives you an advantage. If like a Bowers or McBride are there or Josh Allen is there in the third round, do that. So I like to come out. I'll say the ideal thing is fill. running back and wide receiver as much as you can with those first 6 rounds and keep one for a little bit of variance, right? If somebody falls to you that you like, go after the quarterback or tight end. Like, don't be afraid to do that. So, again, it's all about values, but you definitely don't want to be reaching for guys that you're not sure about starting like late and you're forced to put him as my third. A guy that's ranked in the 50s and you're forced to put him at wide receiver three. Like, try to fill out
Right.
those positions. If you have a flex league, you can then maybe add an extra running back in that case as well instead of your wide receiver three. And then treat your wide receiver three more as your flex. As you can see there on my model, wide receiver three, tight end flex, you're looking for the same kind of production from
Right.
each. So they're kind of
Right.
the same position to me. So that's how you weigh that. But yeah, so definitely you want to have two running backs and two wide receivers in the first 6 rounds.
Gotcha. Cool. Kate, you're going to win, I think. Javier, I think it's kind of a related question. Javier asked today, how do you choose your draft order? Let the app decide or do something fun?
I've done both.
Yeah.
I do not. The one thing I do not like to do is put it at the last minute because Yahoo sometimes will set the random order. Oh, just set the random order 2 hours before the draft. That's no fun.
Right. Right.
You want to be able to have some prep time because you do all this prep and then you don't know exactly when you're drafting and it's a bummer. Like you don't know what. Oh, great. This is. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I don't know if I'm going to get Jahmyr Gibbs the last minute. So I like to do them both ways. You can do a randomizer. There's all kinds of randomizers you can use to pick orders online, right? Just pick one of those random ones to do. Or I love the old pick them out of a hat thing, like the NBA draft lottery type thing,
Hmm.
where pick them out of a hat, a stadium, whatever, a bowl. If you have, and do it reverse, right? Reveal the last pick first,
Yeah.
12th, and then count all the way to one. I think it's a lot of fun and dramatic, but make sure you film it or you have some witnesses because people will call
Good
shenanigans.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Now, keeping it PG rated, what are some of the best, you come in last, you got to do something things. What's the funniest thing you've heard of doing to somebody who lost last place,
yeah, I
if
think
any?
the famous one is the league where the guy had to sit at a Waffle House for 24 hours and he had to for every waffle he ate, he trimmed off an hour. So if he could consume a waffle, so I think he got to 17 hours or something. Like he was able to eat 7 waffles before he got sick, but he had to just sit there the whole time. So that's my favorite one, and I actually wouldn't
Nice.
mind. I actually wouldn't mind that
I
one, honestly.
Yeah. Well,
It wouldn't be the worst, but I would just sit there and not eat the waffles probably. But
yeah.
yeah, there's all kinds of ones. I know there's one where we
Nice.
did where just the shame of it alone can be brutal, but I love it
Yeah.
when you make it a little bit better. Just don't make it too cruel where he has to buy or she has to buy everyone dinner,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
ahead of the league. Don't make it expensive, but make it funny and maybe
Absolutely.
put on a clown costume to work the next day or something. It'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Oh, that's great. If anybody wants to share good stories they've heard about loser penalties, feel free to throw that in the chat as well. Um, Anybody else have any more? I know Anthony, Javier, Craig, Caitlin, you guys have been great. I know other people on this call are curious and are just being shy. There's got to be some more stuff. All right. Well, I
Well,
guess,
I can ask a question out there.
yeah, please.
Who's the player? This is a good one. Who's the player that you absolutely cringe about drafting, like in terms of a player you hate on or off the field. So, I mean, if you guys have any of those, like I'm always curious to see what people say for that. Like players that they absolutely, no matter what, you might hate Taylor Swift, so you're not drafting Travis Kelce by any means. Any time you
Dion
might hate. Yeah.
Yeah. Deion Sanders doesn't play anymore, so that he's out. Uh, I'm trying. Oh God, I mean, well, again, Eli Manning's gone, Plexico Burris is gone. I just think back to those crazy, you know, Giants Super Bowl victories. But someone said Aaron Rodgers. I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good one, but I'll tell you this, you don't want to be drafting him anyway this year.
yeah.
So, Dak Prescott is a good one because a lot of people love to hate the Cowboys,
Yeah.
but Dak in reality is a very good fantasy player. But the problem is he gets hurt every other year. So that could be the reason you hate him because you don't know if this is the year he's staying healthy. He was very durable to start his career, then he had the injury, and then it's like, is he going to miss time? And then what am I going to get? And
Hmm.
I don't know one team that's so dependent on the quarterback if like everything falls apart if he's not in there for the other scorers. So Dak Prescott is volatile. He's polarizing. He might be the most polarizing quarterback in the NFL because he's the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. So that's something. Keenan Allen is interesting because just when we thought we were done with Keenan Allen, he's returned to Indianapolis on a deal. Last year was very frustrating because we, as a fantasy community, really liked Lad McCoskey. He was the new slot receiver with the Chargers, and Keenan Allen came in there and just messed things up. And that was terrible because a lot of people drafted Keenan Allen came late into the mix. So like, why do they need him? Why do they do this? Then he came and rode with the Chargers. Now Keenan Allen is a guy. Again, these aging older players. Like the funny thing is, I do not draft list. And I'm usually going off. Do not want the aged players with wear and tear. I do not like to take them. I like the younger guys with upside. Um, Mike Evans, a different guy. This year, I would draft Mike Evans. I know it's frustrating. Sometimes the biggest thing with Mike Evans is that he always seems to be battling something in practice. So you got to wait it out every week. Is a hamstring or growing? And you're like, is he going to play this week? Do we know? And those players can be annoying as well because you got to pay attention every week. Now, Mike Evans has been as consistent as they come, but in terms of season to season, he's so frustrating to have because he can have a game with 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, or you can have a one catch, 7 yard game. You never know what it's going to be. So those inconsistent ones are just really maddening in fantasy because that you want to win, but you don't want to like with my model, you don't want to have. Okay, you're going to have wide receiver one. He's going to put up 23 points, or it's going to be 3 points. That's not helpful to know what you need from the rest of your guys. Now, I see the Caleb Williams question there from Ashley. I do have a lot of hype for Caleb Williams, maybe too much hype. I'm buying into it. So if you talk to me, I'm like way into Caleb Williams, and I like that potential to be that QB value that absolutely hits that big scoring, like the next guy, like a Drake May or Matthew Stafford, who's a little bit undervalued, but unfortunately, a lot of other fantasy managers also are into Caleb Williams, so his value's been a little bit elevated here. So when we look at Caleb Williams and you say, this dude is very talented, he's on a great offense, you try to start to check all the boxes. What is the downside with this guy that you're looking for at that spot? And you just say, wait, is there any? Like he's got all these receivers. He's a talented guy. He can run, put up numbers. And you really say, I'm trying to find a reason not to draft Caleb Williams and not to be excited and not to be hyped about Caleb Williams, but I'm not finding any here. So great offense, great weapons, great stuff all around. So Caleb Williams, I think, can win MVP. So if you're also looking for some betting here, that's what I would look at.
Got it.
All right, AJ Brown, another one. He's actually now mixing it up. I guess they're, of course, this week they're practicing against the Eagles, so that's an interesting twist. And he's back on the field here. So I want to love AJ Brown more. He can also be inconsistent, but I think that was the nature of the Eagles' offense, where sometimes it would be an AJ Brown game where you go off and do things. I think he'll be a little bit more consistent with the Patriots. He does have a history with Mike Vrabel going back to Tennessee, so that's also very helpful, where they know each other and they know the personality. So I think AJ Brown will be less fickle this year. I think he's got to be happier playing with Drake May in New England. Drake May is a much more accurate downfield quarterback, and that's what AJ Brown does well than Jalen Hurts. So I think it could be big, big for AJ Brown. I mean, he's still very productive without the quarterback with the same accuracy of Drake May, given that Jalen Hurts was often just throwing it up to him, making plays. That's what he can do. AJ Brown is big, he's strong. I love the guys that can not only make the big plays for you, but can also score the touchdowns. And really, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I want those well-rounded receivers who are going to get you points. I think, Todd, now we're flying on these. So
I know it's killing me. This is great. It was great.
yeah,
I love it.
now we're
Yeah.
taking off. So
Well, no
um,
one's shy anymore. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, let it rip here. I will give you my unbiased opinion on a lot of these things. Now, I'm looking at the one from Craig on waiver wire suggestions. Now, I look from week to week and look at just who's got the next opportunity, who's got the talent and more opportunity there that you look at. Now, one guy I'm going to pay close attention to is Fernando Mendoza on the waiver wire because, again, this Raiders offense looks a lot better with Clint Kubiak and just everything about it. It just the buzz of the Raiders is so much greater. So Fernando Mendoza is one of those guys. I'm not necessarily going to declare he's going to be a league winner, but those are type of he's a great profile of players I'm looking for. People that can expand into a big role that can get you the points you're looking for. And that's where we go from there. It's like, okay, we're, is he having an opportunity? Now, a couple guys I would stash for later in your leagues are Tank Bigsby and Marshawn Lloyd. Why would I stack those guys? They're the handcuffs. And again, if you can draft these guys, if you're a Saquon Barkley manager or a Josh Jacobs guy, get their backups. I do recommend handcuffing, but I also recommend sniping handcuffs late in drafts where, hey, you're one Barkley injury away from having a starting running back. So why let the guy that has those backs benefit? You should steal and get that value. So sometimes I prefer that. Like, I don't care if I don't have that. If I know I'm an injury away from having a massive value, I might take that guy over like a third string running or a guy that I'm not going to play much on my team from some other team that's bad, right? I don't want that. I'd rather have that lottery ticket is what we call them, where you're scratching it off, hoping something happens. And if you do enough of them, usually some of them scratch off. Now, this is a good question by Anthony. Fab is a great one. So, what Fab is, if not everyone's familiar, and if you're using a waiver priority system for your pickup players, is you get a budget, usually around 200 bucks, and you have to decide how much of that you want to spend to bid on a player each week to pick them up. Now, if you have the highest bid, you're going to win that player. So, I tend to say I tend to say be a little bit conservative early because there's probably going to be a devastating injury where everyone's going to rush to get that guy. Everyone's going to say, I want that guy quickly in my backfield. It could be like to Christian McCaffrey or something. You want to jump on the 49ers and try to benefit from that immediately and go there. Or some guys that you know are going to just go off if they get the starting job. So be careful. Don't spend too much of early. Wait for that guy that is this guy going to have long-term prognosis of staying on the field and producing what we're looking for? Then go big time after that guy. But be a little bit conservative with your fab early, then just let it flow later because you can't take that money with you in the next season. Get and try to win those bids. Now, this is another good one from Tina. Do you describe to the philosophy of drafting a running back or wide receiver in round one or grabbing a quarterback? Now, again, I've seen Josh Allen go in the first round in some of my leagues. So it's not insane to take Josh Allen, but how I explain is opportunity cost. Where do I have the chance to get those 19 points? Am I going to have an easier time finding 19 points per game at quarterback? Or am I going to have an easier time finding 15 points per game with my running back one? The answer is quarterback, right? I'm going to be able to find that value later to get where I'm going. So, in general, I want to hit it and I want to try to get, if I'm drafting an RB1 or wide receiver one of my first picks, what I'm looking for, how much over can I get over that 15 points that I projected for RB1, or 11 and a half points I projected for wide receiver one. So that's how we kind of measure that, right? So it's all about the numbers and looking at it. I think sometimes in fantasy, a lot of people are good at analyzing the players, look at the scouting reports and all this, but in the end, it's all about the numbers and how it adds up to putting up a winning team.